This is part 2 of a 7-part series on continuing the conversation about the proposed rewrite of Article 2 of the Unitarian Universalist Bylaws. In part 2, we will try to decode some of the new words in the Values and Covenant section.
Sometimes I think I need a secret decoder ring. A lot of the new words and phrases in the Article 2 rewrite are kind of ambiguous. How can we be accountable for values that have lots of different ways to interpret them?
I have the same concerns. How do we define racism? Is it unequal opportunities or unequal outcomes? There's a big difference between those definitions of racism. I think equal outcomes is just an impossible thing to achieve. If dismantling racism implies a goal of equal outcomes, this would be an unrealistic commitment we are being asked to make.
And what does the word dismantle mean? Dismantle is an aggressive word. Using words like dismantle and systemic and oppression makes me think this is really about critical race theory. I am reminded that our new UUA president gave a sermon where she said that UU needs to be in dialogue with the teachings of critical race theory. One of the members of the Commission on Institutional Change explained that the Widening the Circle of Concern report is based on critical race theory. Isn't the whole agenda of dismantling white supremacy culture in UU really based on critical race theory? It seems to me that dismantling white supremacy culture is the same as dismantling racism and all forms of systemic oppression. They mean the same thing. And isn't dismantling all forms of systemic oppression actually a call to abandon the Western, liberal, Enlightenment values that UU is based on? Values like reason and tolerance of multiple points of view, and due process, and even democracy itself. This is essentially a rejection of liberalism. This really concerns me.
It is interesting that you mentioned democracy as being one of the liberal values that could be abandoned. In the very next sentence in the justice value, I noticed that they are adding the word inclusive in front of democratic processes. I remember watching a recording of a workshop presented at General Assembly in 2020. It was about inclusive democracy. Based on that workshop, I am concerned that inclusive democratic processes are not actually liberal democracy as we think of it.
Moving on to other ambiguous phrases in the new values. What does it mean to covenant to freely share our resources and money? Will we be out of covenant if our annual donation is not big enough? Will the congregation be out of covenant if our congregation does not contribute as much as the UUA demands? I can see why you said this just feels so heavy-handed.
And why is it necessary to say that we covenant to learn from one another? Does this place limits on our search for truth? And does insider jargon like beloved community belong in the bylaws? No one outside UU will know what that means. Every UU member probably has their own ideas about what beloved community means. The word is too ambiguous. And what does it mean to covenant to collectively transform? This sounds like change for the sake of change. Would we be out of covenant if we oppose a change that the UUA proposes? Not all change is automatically good. And is individual flourishing something we would call a right, or just something we hope for but can't be guaranteed? And what does it mean to work to repair harm and damaged relationships of the earth and all beings? That can mean almost anything. How can we responsibly commit to such an open-ended mandate? Remember, goals like these will not just be aspirations anymore.
Wow, that's a lot to think about. Don't forget what's missing. Principle number 6 is not carried forward in the rewrite. UU has had a goal of world community all along, since the merger in 1961. And now we are going to just get rid of it? Why? I am also reminded of another new purpose, to heal historic injustices. That sounds like a mandate for reparations, of some sort. And don't overlook the new paragraph in the purposes section. The transformation of the world through liberating love. What does that even mean? That sounds so presumptuous, even patronizing, in a way. Apparently, liberating love doesn't include a goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. What kind of transformation do they have in mind? This is not adding up for me. Every one of these new values has words we don't really understand, yet we are entering into a covenant to commit to be accountable for them.
We are not just being picky about words. The words matter. Our new UUA president said at General Assembly in 2022 that covenant without consequences is not actually covenant.
Covenants with consequences are dictates. We need to know who will be judging our actions. What matters is how the enforcers of accountability define the new words.
Well, I think having UUs judging other UUs is a bad idea, particularly if we don't even agree on what specific words and phrases mean. That could be very divisive.
Goodness gracious, we shouldn't do things that could be more divisive. Our membership has dropped 4 years in a row.
Yes, we need to consider how this rewrite might affect membership. Does it make UU more attractive or less attractive?
Be sure to watch Part 3, where we search for a unifying theme, tying together the changes in all of the sections of Article 2. Deciding what UU is going to be about is in our hands. Now is the time to continue the conversation. Let's be wise and prudent caretakers of this religion.